All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Flame, and here we are on Master Motivation Show for our afternoon show. For those of you that may have joined me this morning, I had a chance to interview Emilio and Daniela Roman, and now I'm joined by a special guest all the way from Honolulu. We got Mr. Dave Wheaton, and I'm just going to read you his bio real quick and
Oh
introduce
boy.
him to the show. Grandmaster Dave Wheaton is a revered instructor who has taught and trained in the martial arts for well over 50 years. He was one of the founders of Santa Barbara Dojo, formerly Martial Arts Family Fitness, and is the founder of Hapkido International in 1991. Dave began his training in 1966 at the age of 16 in the Korean martial art of Tang Soo Do. He has also studied Muay Thai, Aikido, and Judo. In 2020, at the age of 70, Grandmaster Wheaton retired and moved back to Honolulu, where he is teaching private lessons and enjoying the beautiful weather. Welcome to the show, Mr. Wheaton. How are you?
I'm really good, sir. How about you?
I'm excellent. Super excited to have you on here. I remember one of the first times that we had met, and we had several chats early on in my career with Maya and being a part of that family. And I remember you had a little more hair, like you had the nicest wavy hair back then.
I sure did.
And now here we are. We're kind of
Oh,
looking
you're
the
my
same. We're
twin.
kind
I
of
love it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's why I wear the hat. But all good. All good. So how's Honolulu treating you?
Well, Honolulu is an amazing place. It really is. So I just I've lived here on and off for many years. And so I'm going to just show you something. I just moved into a house that I've lived to on and off for years. We call it the tree house, I hope for obvious reasons. Just a beautiful little place up on top of a hill. It's in the middle of the city, but you feel like you're in the country.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah,
that's
it's a
amazing.
beautiful place. It treats me really well. It's good for my older martial arts bones. I'm sure you're too young to be feeling your life of training, but I was. So yeah.
Yeah. A little bit, not as much, not as much just yet. I tell myself that if I keep moving and I keep active, that hopefully that'll prolong that for as long as
Well,
possible.
I think so too. But I watch you do wrestling stuff, and it's just like, oh my God.
Not as much anymore. Not as much as anymore.
Oh,
Not as
okay.
much as I would
Okay,
like
good.
to do. But
Yeah,
I miss
I
that
was
a lot.
watching you actually this. I was watching a little clip of you this morning, and it was like, man, that looks painful. Oh, I mean, I know it's choreographed and stuff like that, but you're working, man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was a great
Oh
time.
yeah,
It was a passion of mine. I grew up loving professional wrestling. So when I had the opportunity to actually get in the ring, I made a lot of really good friends. A lot of people I still talk to
that's
this day,
awesome.
and they're still running. They're still running strong. But you've got over 50 years. Maybe it sounds like longer, right? In the martial arts, and you started in
I
the
think it's
same style as
55,
me.
56 now, something like
Yeah,
that.
you
Yeah,
started in Tong Soo Do.
yeah, I did. Yeah, in
Yeah, and where?
Connecticut. I did.
Connecticut.
Yeah. Bob Cheesick, are you familiar?
No.
No, he was like one or two numbers above Chuck Norris.
Okay.
They went to the same place, and yeah.
All right, awesome. And you had a school in Santa Barbara, California for a
Yeah,
number
for
of
20 years.
years.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
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 Well,
I mean,
so
I've had schools in Connecticut, Honolulu, San Diego. I mean, that I actually opened, and
mhm,
Santa Barbara. So yeah,
nice.
I've been around a little bit. Hmm?
Well, so let's talk about your martial arts experience, your background. How did you get into martial arts and let's just
Well,
kind of flow from there.
I'm sure you never heard this before, but there was this guy called Bruce Lee, and I was watching. I think it might have been like I don't think it was Green Hornet. It was another show that he was in, and he jumps up in the air, kicks out a light bulb, and then goes down these stairs and kicks the crap out of everybody. Right, all
Hmm.
the bad guys. Right, and the thing that is different, and what a lot of people don't understand, that in the '60s there was no reference to martial arts. Right, so you're I didn't even know it was humanly possible to jump up in the air and kick, and I was amazed by it. talked about, and I was watching it with my best friend, and we talked about it quite a bit. And then shortly thereafter, I got bullied. Right, I was, I think, a sophomore in high school, and I was going down the path, and one of the seniors came down, and I didn't even want to look at him, and it was snowy day, and he pushed me down. He pushed my face in the snow, and I can remember thinking, if I was Bruce Lee. Anyway, so then my best friend started to do Tang Soo Do, and he was disappearing. I didn't know anything about it. He actually became kind of my first instructor. He showed me his kicks. He showed me, you know, some of his forms. It wasn't too much into forms back then, but he was showing me. He was pretty proud of them. Yeah, so that's how I got in. Then I trained with Master Chizik for a little bit. Really wasn't it for me, and so I trained some Muay Thai, some Aikido, some Judo. You know, just kind of floating, really. And a few years later, I ran into my Taekwondo Grandmaster, and he was the man. He became my mentor. So.
Yeah. Hey, before we go into that, can you tilt your camera maybe down just a little bit so I get a little bit more? There we go. There we go. Perfect.
Like,
Yep.
yeah,
I lost.
I'm as good as you are, clearly.
That's okay. That's all right. There we go. Now we got you just a little bit more on screen.
But you can coach me very well. You just kind of tell me what to do, and I'll figure it out how to do it. Okay. There we go.
No, that looks great from there. And by the way, if anybody watching live right now, guys, if you have any questions, or just if you're watching, send us a comment. Just say hi. We want to see who's watching. If you have any questions for Master Wheaton, would love to ask him for you, and just post your comments on the screen. So please go ahead and do that. And if you feel inclined, please share this video as well so more people can watch it. So you found your Taekwondo instructor, and you mentioned he was it. What made him it? What
so
changed
again,
for
I was
you?
with my best friend, and we were actually driving cabs and on a lunch break, and we were talking about martial arts and how we really haven't found our mentor, right? And as we were walking down the street, there was a poster on a telephone pole that said, 6'9" Korean master Lee Tae-hee giving Taekwondo demonstration. And we just, hadn't heard of him. And so we just decided to go to the demonstration. And he was is a phenomenal human being. He cracked 5 boards over. He's 130 pounds, right? 5 boards reverse punch, 2 boards spear hand. He was a crazy guy, right? I mean, wow. For someone who didn't know martial arts, I was, and I continue to be amazed by him. Anyway, so yeah, he became my teacher. He taught me Taekwondo. He taught me how to run a school. He taught me how to open schools. I mean, he was a very big person in my life. I don't know if I would be doing what I do now if it wasn't for him, right? Learned a lot from him.
Yeah. And I'm sure along the way, there's been several other people, which I know that we're going to talk about as well. And I just want to give a quick shout out. Joy is watching again. I'm assuming it's Joy again, because I don't know if Andy is on social media, but Andy and Joy Vincioni, thank you guys for watching, and thanks for always commenting. The 60s and 70s was a different time. It was a different time for martial arts. Like you said, it wasn't really referenced or talked about a lot. You brought up that story about Bruce Lee and that kicking the light. For me, like when you were telling that story and what you saw, I remember seeing the Bruce Lee story, and that was a scene in that movie that you exactly described that. And it's just a lot of people that I talked to, especially at that time, would see demonstrations or see things kind of on TV, but it was never really like what you would see now, where there are so many commercial martial artists all over the country. What was it like in the 60s and 70s, getting into martial arts? What was the experience like for you?
Well, it was really interesting, at Bob Chizik's school, he had instructors walking around on the floor, and if you're in a front stance, they would step on your back leg, and it was kind of gruff and totally male oriented. It was okay, but it didn't really resonate with me, right? Yeah, but it was interesting. Muay Thai, I mean, My instructor, I'll tell you what, in the early 70s when I started training with him, he had returned from 3 years of teaching combat taekwondo to the where is it, this side, Tiger Division in Vietnam, the Rock Marines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he spent 3 years there, and he was right. And so his training was severe. I mean, I don't think they train people like he used to train us anyway. Maybe they do, but you know, there's a lot. Every place I've been, there's always a little bit softer edge to it because he was really tough guy, really tough. It was interesting, and I feel honored that I'm in his lineage. Actually, his teacher was General Choi, and so he was very close to the top of Taekwondo, the Taekwondo food chain. So yeah.
And a lot of the martial arts in the 60s and 70s came back from people that had studied overseas and studied in the military and then brought it back to the United States. My instructor Chuck Norris being one of those people who brought it to
Hey, there
Southern
you go.
California.
Yeah.
And so the style or the approach of teaching was very, very different than what you would see today. And some good, some maybe not so good, some worked for some people. The common theme that I hear from a lot of people that started martial arts in the earlier years was that martial arts served those that were strong, and martial arts served those that could make it and were tough enough to handle it. But unfortunately, it weeded out so many of the people that probably needed martial arts more than anybody else. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that. In fact, that's what attracted me to Hapkido, right? So much because Hapkido, the way that I learned it, was so much more user friendly. So when I trained and taught in Connecticut for several years, and then I moved to Honolulu, and one of the guys in my Taekwondo school at UH invited me to go down and see a Hapkido class. And I had seen Billy Jack, but I hadn't tied everything together. And when I went down to school, I was amazed by the circular movement. I had never seen, I don't know if you know the down round kick when you drop down and spin, take somebody's legs out. I fought in tournaments and stuff back then, but I'd never seen anybody do a movement like that. It attracted me. And then it was typically, rather than hard block, you would intercept, join, and then redirect the energy. So there wasn't a lot of this like Taekwondo style, really hard blocking in the art that I studied. It was very soft with very hard patterns.
And you mentioned training in Tang Soo Do and then Taekwondo and then Hapkido. I mean, those are all the Korean martial arts. What was it that attracted you to the Korean martial arts versus Japanese Okinawan?
I'm gonna just show you my apartment. There's a poster of a painting, very famous painting of Musashi. But then as we go around the corner, you see what I got in my back corner back there?
Looks like a bob.
It's a bob, and I still kick every day. I feel blessed because I have, and I still train every day. I kick, and I still have all my original equipment. My hips are mine, my knees are mine. Got to knock on some wood, but yeah, I love it. I've always loved it.
And that's great to hear because a lot of people ask me, having trained, for just about a little over 30 years, I myself, knock on wood, no hip surgery, no knees, none of that. Although a lot of people around me have had that issue because of the constant. I mean, the kicking in the air, I think, is what really hurt a lot of people because we're doing those thrusting kicks and the knees and the hips and the back and everything. That's kind of what has torn a lot of people apart. But great to hear that you're still kicking strong and still going at
Thank you.
70.
I have like rules like about that, like never 100% extension, never 100% velocity, right? Never 100% height. As long as I keep it to 97, 98%, my joints have always stayed healthy.
Right.
But on that, every once in a while, I'll let a kick go.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. But I don't train that way. And I don't teach people to train that way because I've watched all my friends 2, 3 knee surgeries, 2, 3 hips later on. Like still kicking and
Right.
kicking well. They've got a lot of mechanical stuff in them now.
Yeah, for sure. And just to be clear, you are 72, is that right?
I'm 71.
71, almost. Okay, so
Turning the corner on 72.
there you go. Well, Joy's watching and she's like, 70 must be the new 50. So good for
Yeah.
you. You do look great. You look great.
Thank you.
And I think keeping moving and keeping active is that key
That's right.
to looking healthy and being healthy and living that lifestyle, aids. What is your workout regimen? What are you doing on the daily?
Okay, so these days, actually, I walk at least 5 miles a day, often 10, and pretty briskly. All right, I got a Fitbit on, and I never thought I would. My last partner always wore a Fitbit, and I was teaser about it, but she was right, dead on, man. I got on it. I'm addicted. I've been using them for a couple of years now, and so it gives me a focal point for my walking stuff. And then I go to the gym, but I also, one more scan. All right, see my couch? Those are elastic bands. And so in Santa Barbara, I developed a course that we called the Cut. I'm sure you kind of remember it.
Yep.
Right. And so it was 3 days of kickboxing and then 3 days of resistance training using bands. And in the beginning, I thought that, oh yeah, only sissies use band, because I was in the gym all the time lifting weights.
Right.
And once I started with the bands and I started to understand what you could do with them, I've switched. I mean, when I go to the gym, I'll do cable exercises, but I very rarely lift actual weights. Sometimes kettlebells. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I work out quite a bit.
Yeah, that's good for you. Joy is asking, do you live in Hawaii? Yes, he lives in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Yeah.
So thanks for all the questions, Joy.
Yeah,
Keep them coming. It's fun.
Yeah.
When it comes to band training, I personally, I was always, I always really loved martial arts was always my outlet for working out. As a matter of fact, until my late 20s, I almost never really worked out in the gym because I was either sparring or taking class or doing, that kept me active and strong. Just body weight, squats, push-ups, sit-ups, all that stuff. And then I got into weightlifting and weight training, and I really do enjoy it. I like to lift heavy. That's probably more of an ego thing than anything else. But when I hurt my shoulder in professional wrestling, and when I was going through the rehab, I started using a lot more bands. The bands became part of my recovery. So that was super helpful. And now my son, who has just had shoulder surgery, is
Oh,
also
man.
using bands for his training. And it's powerful. It's good stuff. Again, keeps it nice and loose and limber, elongates some muscles, all the good stuff.
Yeah, there's something about when when you lift a weight, it's one weight, and as you lift it up, it's the same weight. And typically, you kind of cheat and let it down easy. We can't do a lot of that stuff with a band. With a band, as you lift it, it increases the resistance continually until it reaches extension, and then you can't just let it drop, right? You have to bring it back down. So there's this negative part of the exercise that is really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you brought up your cut program. One of your instructors, we knew in common for a long time, Sarah,
Sarah,
because Sarah,
yeah.
Sarah had started with a really good friend of mine, Frankie McConnell, out in Acton, California. And then when she
Yeah.
went, I think it was when she went to school, she went to Santa Barbara, and that's where she found you.
Yeah.
So,
She's now in Phoenix, and she's not really training, but I mean, she was pretty important person in my school, right? She was fourth dan black belt in both Hapkido, in Taekwondo, and in your art from the guy up in Acton, right? She got her fourth dan from him, I believe. So she was a very unusual person, especially for a woman, because she was so into it for so many years. I mean, she lived for martial arts.
And it's always good to have.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's always good to have someone like that in your school that's just as passionate about the martial arts and teaching and the human development, within the student base of the school. So having someone like that around is just a huge asset.
Yeah. She's quite a girl. I mean, so she would be in, like at her black belt test stuff, she would be in the ring with, 7, 8 people, throwing them around, sometimes fighting. And she always had this big smile on her face. She'd be throwing people, and she was really good. I can remember her throwing, she was 115 pounds soaking wet, probably something like that. And at one of these tests, she took this guy down who was probably at least 200 pounds and grabbed him in a circular motion and just, without using too much muscle, but perfect form, brought him around and threw him. And the whole crowd just was like, what the heck? Big smile, right?
Oh yeah.
Smile. Anyway,
that's awesome. Joy again has a question. She said, "Is there?" She's asking, "What's a good Taekwondo place in Honolulu?" She has a second-degree black belt. Her daughter-in-law just moved there. Do you have a recommendation for a school out there for her?
No,
not yet.
I haven't really connected with a lot of most of my old Taekwondo buddies have retired.
Yeah.
But I do teach one class in Kapiolani Park. You can find me on Meetup, tell her, and she's welcome to join every Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Great.
And I'm pondering opening a school over here, but I don't know if I want to do that again.
That's and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But you teach private lessons, correct?
I do, yeah. I teach I teach on Zoom and yeah. So but then maybe one class a week, I have a few students in it, and I've just restarted it again. It's Hapkido though; it's not Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not little off.
That would be a cool thing, just from this video alone, to have a connection made where someone wants to learn martial arts and they meet up with you. So let's see if that happens.
Yeah, make me happy actually.
So let's talk about opening your first school. When and where did you open your very first school?
Oh my God! So the first school that I opened was for Grandmaster in my hometown. I was training with him in Ansonia, Connecticut, and I started teaching for him there when I was a yellow belt, because one of the instructors didn't show up and he liked the way I taught. So he says, "So you teach? They're all white belts anyway. You teach." Oh my God. But then anyway, so I trained with him there, and I would go. He had a main school out in Brantford, Connecticut, that I go train in. And so one day he says, "W. Wheaton, you go Seymour," which was my hometown about 5 miles away. "You open school there." I went, "Excuse me? I was a red belt." He goes, "I'm only a red belt." He said, "That's okay. You're good. You can do." So I went to my hometown. I found the building. I rented it out. He paid for the rent and stuff like that. But, my services were always free with him. Again, I'll get back to that. So I went to this town in Seymour, and in, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, I had almost 40 students, and no kids classes at the time, just adults. And he was pretty happy, but then the guy at the other school was unhappy, and he said, "School's too close. You have to close that one." But that was the first one I opened. And then that was
what year was that?
81.
81. Okay.
Oh no. Give me a break on that one. That one was in 74, 73.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's my birth year.
Yeah.
So so you closed that school?
So I closed that school, and I was pretty bummed because I really liked that school. But I got over it, sort of. Not till today. No, I'm kidding. But then, so I was out at Brantford again, and he was always having me teach out at Brantford. And he said, "W. Wheaton, now you go to Naugatuck, Connecticut, open school." So same thing. I went out to Naugatuck. I found this building, really cool location, and ex-paint store. It was cool. And I said, "Okay, I found a place." He said, "Good, rent it." And he gave me a check. I said, "You don't want to see it?" He said, "No, I know you." Right. So I went to this school. gave the landlord a check, and I built that business and stayed there until I left for Honolulu a couple of years later. Yeah.
And during this time that you were running the schools, you mentioned that your services were free to your instructor, and you were just running these schools for him. What was your career path? I mean, what was going on during that time for you?
Well, I was in my 20s, and I was in school, and I thought I wanted first a chiropractor, then I wanted to be a medical doctor. That was my shtick. So that's what my classes were in. And other than that, I just loved martial arts, but I never wanted to teach them for money because I thought that would compromise my teaching.
Mm.
So I taught the way I wanted to. The thing is that even when I started to teach for money, I always taught the way I wanted to anyway. And one of my favorite Korean sayings about that from one of my instructors was, "If you no like, make a no difference." It's like, you do anyway, right?
Right?
Yeah. Ipa. And so all my students all over the place know the saying Ipa. I just look at them and go, Ipa? They go, oh.
and,
Yeah, so
and,
anyway,
and
so I did that, and I moved to Honolulu, started teaching Taekwondo at University of Hawaii. That instructor had just died. Korean guy had gotten hepatitis and killed him in a week or two, like just wrecked him.
wow.
And so they didn't have a lead instructor. And me and my training partner, a guy named Chris Wingate, went to the school, and they had a bunch of black belts, but the other instructor, very important to know this one, the other instructor never let anybody else teach, not even warm-ups.
Mm.
So when he died suddenly, he had black belts, and they were very good, but none of them had teaching experience. Nothing. And so they the timing was serendipitous, and they asked us to teach at the school. So we taught at UH like from, for a long time, actually.
And what made you move to Honolulu? How'd you go from Connecticut to moving to Honolulu? What brought you there?
Palm trees.
Okay.
Palm trees. By then I was almost mid 60s, mid 20s, excuse me. And the cold was starting to get to me. And just like, oh my God, really? And the slush and having to deal with that all the time, I wasn't a fan. And so I pulled out a map, and I said, well, where is the place the furthest away from Connecticut where there's palm trees, right? Where I can go to school and I can work, because I was paying for my own education. And I went, oh, Hawaii, I'm going to Hawaii. I talked to my training partner, and I said, you want to go to Hawaii? He goes, oh yeah, let's go. So we came over here.
Wow.
And that's truly how I ended up here.
And you passed up on your way out. You passed up California. When did you end up coming to Santa Barbara into California?
Well, right before I came to Hawaii, I did pretty well in school, and I was accepted to UCSB, Santa Barbara,
Okay.
and University of Hawaii. And I stopped by, and it was a little chilly when I stopped by, but not like Connecticut chilly, just a little bit. And I thought, well, this is beautiful, but if this is beautiful, Honolulu is going to be amazing. And I hadn't been here, and so I just kept on going. Then in I guess it was in '99, we moved to San Diego from Hawaii. My partner was president of an internet company, became president of an internet company, and so she was going to do that, and I was up for an adventure, so I again gave my school to somebody over here, and moved to San Diego for a couple of years. That business crashed horribly. And so it's like, what's next? And I don't know. I had a good buddy in Santa Barbara who was always bugging us. And so we ended up going up there. And, sometimes the universe clicks. Like, she found a house the first time she came to Santa Barbara. We found a school almost as quickly. We had horrible financials because our previous business crashed, and they welcomed us open arms, and we began our school. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how did you feel, you mentioned, not wanting to compromise the arts with making martial arts a business or getting paid for teaching, but now here you are, you're opening a school in Santa Barbara. Did it start off differently than how you anticipated,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had gone to an event and saw a program not unlike our cut, and so we developed it and refined it, and there were things we agreed with and things we didn't agree with, and but ended up with a huge draw. I mean, thousands of people went through our 9-week course,
Mm,
and it when I first got to Santa Barbara, my friend is a child psychiatrist, and he said this is what Santa Barbara needs, right? And but my kids program didn't build for anything. My martial arts program built, my adult martial arts did a little bit, but the cut program went, it was crazy. We had 100 students in 3 months, 2.5 months, right? First year, 300 students. I mean, and not just what happened was with our fitness program, it was fitness kickboxing, and then we would actually, that was kind of like our paid lead program,
hmm
right? And so most of our initial Hapkido and students came from kickboxing, and they would bring their children in because they liked us, right? Because we always had we were always developing community,
hmm
and so yeah, that was kind of what happened. I thought it would be kids, but it was the fitness kickboxing program that we had, then adult program, then lastly kids. We had, continue to have a great kids program. So yeah.
Yeah, I come down to Santa Barbara every now and again, and my wife and I spent some time there, a weekend, and I couldn't help but notice that it is very fitness oriented. You see everybody out walking, out riding bikes, out on the beach doing workouts. There's organized things here and there, so I can understand that within that community, that was something that was going to do really well, the fitness kickboxing. Now, around what year was this that you came into Santa Barbara?
Santa Barbara was '02.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so your program built into your adult program, your kids program, and you talked about community, and talk a little bit about the culture that you were trying to create for, within your school and within your community.
Yeah. So, I mean, so for me, um, I'm, I'm, I'm very addicted to connection. I love people and I love connecting. I love connecting with you. And, I just, how I am. Right. And so it was very organic for me to meet people and then to bring them into our community and do stuff, right? And so we had a very strong, because of that, a very strong referral program.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Most people that are, we took out an ad for fitness kickboxing, but we never took out ads for our martial arts program. And at the height of it, we had 600 students, a little over. So it was big school, a lot of, yeah, with a great culture.
And was that something that you were always looking for with schools that you had prior to Santa Barbara? Was that always
Culture.
kind of your thing, that culture and like you said,
Yeah.
connection?
Yeah. I mean, I'm back in Hawaii and I haven't really taught here in 25 years now. And my students, all that were in my dojos, all still hang out together,
Hmm,
like 20, without training, but they're
right.
friends and they have dinner together and they go have coffee together. And so that culture does stick, right?
Hmm.
Oh, is that,
And
go ahead.
well, I was going to say, and where does that come from? Because that happens, I think, just as much intentionally as it does kind of, just subconsciously. You that's how you are. Um, I guess what I'm asking is, as people are watching this, whether it's a school owner or maybe it's someone that's got a gym or they've got a, what are some things that you've done, or what are some of the things that you do to create and cultivate that community and that connection between your members?
Well, my belief is, all of this is leadership, and leadership starts at the top, and it's how you are, right? And how you are. And then once you're in that position, one of my sayings is, I hire by personality.
Hmm.
When I'm talking to other school owners, and it's like, because I can teach a monkey to do anything else, but I need somebody that has a good personality, that's really people friendly and all this other stuff. And if everybody in your organization has that attitude, it becomes a very attractive environment, right? And so
Hmm.
I would stop it. They could be the best martial artists in the universe. I didn't care. Right. And we've had a lot of really good martial artists, but most of the ones that come visit are very community minded, right? They like people, and they're very playful.
Hmm. And digging a little deeper, as a child, as a teenager, a young adult growing up, where did you find that in your life?
That's a great question. Hmm. Yeah. As a youngster, I just always liked hanging with my friends and having a group. They always would come to my house. I
Hmm.
never, I'm just shooting off the cuff now. I'm just kind of, as I look back,
Hmm.
we had a big yard, and so everybody would always come to my place to play kickball, for instance. So it was a gathering place, and I think my mom was kind of like that also, right? She'd have all her friends over, so maybe I got it from.
Sorry, it cut out just for a second there, but I think you were talking a little bit about your mom, and your mom had that kind of
Yeah,
personality.
so I think maybe it came from my mom, because she really liked people to come to her house, right?
Hmm.
And I really enjoyed it too. I'm guessing now that it's probably from that, but yeah, we were the gathering place.
Hmm. Yeah, I look at my school now, and going back, 20 plus years, watching how things have evolved. And, it's something that my wife and I have always really strived to create a place that people felt like they belonged. We call it our karate family. Everybody here is very close. And I definitely pride ourselves and our school on being that, like you said, like a gathering place. And I'm looking back and thinking to myself, when I was a kid, um, my mom's brother and sister and parents all lived like in three houses right next to each other. And every holiday, we were just talking about this over Easter, that we would get together. It would be the whole family, and that was kind of a constant source of my childhood, is always having family around. And when I joined a martial arts school, I felt that sense of belonging and that sense of community within. And I've always carried that with me as an instructor and as a school owner. And now bringing it even further into our community, we're involved in Rotary International. My wife is a member of Kiwanis. We're involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and it's all these different communities and pulling the different communities together into one. And so I just find it's pretty fascinating to me too, because I feel like sometimes I'm surrounded by so many like-minded people, but at the same time, I end up getting surrounded with people that are totally outside of my circle, but now it just changes who I am as a person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And as we draw that community in, and we train them, right? With everybody, but especially with the kids. And I know you do value based martial arts, and those kids become better citizens, and they go out
Mm,
into the community, and they actually represent you. And so when people see them, they go, what's with this kid? How come he's like this? He's awesome. Yes or no, sir, all this other stuff, right? And when
right.
they find out, then their kids find their way to the school.
Hmm.
Anyway, so
Yeah. So many different avenues that we reach out to people through martial arts that I think sometimes gets lost. I mean, of course, self-defense is important. It's probably what separates us from any other sport and activity, is that we teach self-defense. Nobody else teaches that outside of martial arts. But also at the same time, you brought up value based martial arts, and value meaning life skills, everything from
Exactly.
leadership to our tenets of Tang Soo Do: courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and Dhamma spirit. The same tenets of
Mindful.
Taekwondo as well, right?
Yeah. And
So
in my Hapkido school, the same. They're up on the wall still.
right. Right. And those things just, transcend much further, because we know that students are going to train with us to a certain level, and they're going to go away to school. They're going to go they're going to change careers, and I love that, you know the schools sometimes say, or parents say, I don't want my child to use martial arts at school. And I always say I want them to use martial arts every single day, but not the way you think of it. The way that I think of it is, they're going to say yes sir, yes ma'am. They're going to, hold the door open, or be a volunteer. They're going to be a leader in the classroom. All those things. They should be taking that part of martial arts with them every single day and for the rest of their life.
Right. And being able to defend themselves.
Yep. That's a
On
great
top of
benefit
all
to
that,
it.
right, they have to learn their boundaries, how to say no, just no, that's not all right. Right.
Yeah. No,
Right.
absolutely. So, so let's talk a little bit about, we talked, we met through Maya, the Martial Arts Industry
Mhm.
Association, and which is you know, part of the Century family, which I could talk a lot about the Century family and how great they've been to me and to our family and to our school. What made you get involved? Having trained in the martial arts since the 60s and 70s, and running multiple schools. What got you into the Maya family?
Well, first of all, you'll get a kick out of this. My customer number is 881, right? So I was a customer of Century from like 1980, right?
Oh,
And and just I thought, I read it, and we would pick up coaches along the way when we had our school in Santa Barbara, even in Hawaii, right? I was always being coached. I like being coached. My partner liked being coached. So yeah, when we saw Maya, talked, I think initially to Mike Metzger,
hmm,
and I thought I'd give it a try. I like him. He's a good guy.
yeah.
So
I
that's
I
where
would.
I met you. But I've always gone. I mean, I've always gone to this stuff. I can remember. I went to one in Las Vegas. It had to be 1990-ish, and Andrew Woods threw the event.
Hmm,
Who he wasn't a martial artist, but he had a martial arts event, and I went to that, and there were some good takeaways. And I learned that if you go to these things, that um, you can find one or two things that will help you, right?
yeah,
And you
absolutely.
might be able to help them. Okay. And then
Right,
with
right.
Maya, and I think you were there actually. So the first Maya event in Oklahoma that I went to, I was sitting at the table, the Maya elite group, and there's probably 30, 40 people there, getting taught stuff. And I think it was Mike looked up and he said, "You're here? Are you still going to these things? Do you remember this at all?" And I maybe not. Anyway, so I just looked up at him. I said, "Yeah, I'm still going." He said, "How come?" I said, I guess I'm slow." But and then I explained that I create value from these. If you got one or two things, or I typically look for three out of it, and three things, I'm happy. So
Yeah.
yeah, my
Sorry, we're getting a little bit of feedback. Getting a little bit of feedback. Let me see if it readjusts there. Sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I said Maya was really good to me. I mean, I learned some really good things from them, and I actually I referred my
Yeah, I
what's going
apologize.
on.
Yep, I
Oh,
apologize. It's just cutting in and out, maybe a connection issue. But no,
okay.
here's what I like about Maya, or any organization. I would credit Mike Metzger with, like, literally changing my life and changing my business completely. Still talk to him quite a bit and consider him a mentor. But what I love about Maya and all the groups is, they, like you said, they create these opportunities to continue to grow. And some people, have been with it from the very beginning and still a part of it. And some people go from one to the next. But at the end of the day, if you take one or two things away from each seminar, and this really goes for whether it's martial arts or it's business or it's anything else in your career in a different field, one or two things, as long as we take action. And I think that's the main key, because some people are information collectors but no
Oh, yeah.
action. But you take one or two ideas away and then go put it into action. I remember a quote that was just forever sticks in my head, is that little details equal big results, and sometimes it's just those
Oh,
little
I like that.
details that
Yeah.
change. So I agree with you. One or two things as a takeaway, and then put it to action, and you're going to see results. Are you continuing to attend any other seminars,
I
and not just
am.
not just in the martial arts, but just in general? What are you doing with
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I'm done with a lot of it. However, every year, um, Master Randy Reed hosts a seminar down in Cozumel
Hmm.
that I've been with him from the beginning on that one, and it's really an excellent seminar. Some, like Master Clark is there every year.
Hmm.
Sergio von Schmeling is there. Um, very, very business oriented martial arts people come to share their ideas, right?
Hmm.
And so it's a pretty cool structure. And I mean, I went this year. Um, the classes are from like 8 till 1. And then everybody goes out to Coconuts, which is a bar on the other side of the island, and sits around and socializes. So if you want to, if you create value by sitting down with Master Clark and having him open up and just tell you what he thinks, that's priceless, right?
Hmm.
But every person there is like that, right? And the list is pretty strong. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, I am absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Cos
it's
talk.
great. Yep, Cause Talks. I've not been yet, but a lot of friends have attended and gotten a lot, like you said, a lot of value out of it. And it is great. I've had the fortune to sit down and talk with Master Clark several times. I just had him on the podcast not too long ago,
Oh, cool.
and
Yeah,
it's just great. We all love martial arts, right? So we talk shop a lot, right? We get to talk and shop a lot, and talking about not just a business, but just martial arts in general, and just the things that we all have in common. And it just sometimes just sitting down with a group of people makes you think a little bit deeper about what you're doing, and not only what you're doing, but why are you doing it, those
right.
types of things. So that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun. Well, listen, we're nearing the end of our hour, and I want to make sure that if there's anything else that you want to talk about, or anything else that you want to share with us that we haven't touched on yet, now would be a great time to touch on that.
Now you're making me think. Uh, just the people, if martial arts school owners are watching, just remember that you're a martial artist, and make sure that you train, and make sure that it, you, that business isn't your primary, right? We'll make money if we're good, right?
Hmm.
But take care of the people, and train them well, and stay in shape, and bring that into your life and into your community, right?
Yep.
When you're 70 years old, you're going to want somebody look at you and say, 70 is the new 50, right? You want to hear that, right? Because it's right. That's the most important thing, right? Doing that and taking people for that ride.
Yep.
Another thing there is that, like, one of my he's actually a good friend now, but he's a mentor, is Bill Wallace, Superfoot, and he's almost exactly 5 years older than me, and he can still kick. So he's 76, turned the corner on 77. He can still kick higher and faster than me, and his timing at 76 is impeccable, right? Um, anyway, and that's because he does it. So he's like one of my, like, idols, right? One of my when I see him, I want to be like him. I want to be able to carry this through my life. And so I think that, well, if that guy can do it at 76, I can still do it at 71. And on and on and on, right?
Yeah, no, it's always great to have those people in your life that kind of motivate you. I mean, at 71 years old, you're looking great, still kicking, still going strong. I hope to be in that position in 20 years from now. I see my instructor who still continues to train. And I think, what you
I
were
love
saying with Bill Wallace is they're still training. That's just the key, the consistency over time. Because anybody can train hard for a couple years, but how many people can train consistently over a lifetime?
that sign is on the wall at the dojo. Consistency over time equals results, right? That's what it is.
Yeah,
In anything.
I love it. Well, do you have any other mantra that you live by, or just your favorite quote that really sticks out to you? Maybe aside from that one there.
Oh, nah, nothing that's coming to mind anyway. I would have to sit and think about it for a bit.
That's
And
okay.
I'm into quotes, right? Okay, so about understanding life in general. There was a poet named Omar Khayyam. He wrote a book called The Rubaiyat, and it's a philosophical book and of poems though. And so one of his poems is a quote. It's if you are with the buttercup, like if you're with a woman, enjoy her. If you're drunk on wine, enjoy it. Since this world's business ends in nothing, think that you are not and enjoy. He was a great Sufi scholar, and he's so I pick up little things like that and take my lessons from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You know, it's very short.
Yeah. Well, you've shared a lot of quotes throughout this interview too, so I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate your time and our conversations over the years. I was excited to kind of bring you on here just to introduce you to I don't want to say my audience, because I don't even know if I have an audience, but just anybody that might be associated with my school or with me in any way that might watch this video later. Like I said, I think it's a great way for me to show my kids in the end, my legacy of who are people that I spent time with, who are people that I looked up to, who are people that I talked with. And I think that will give maybe not just my kids, but maybe my grandkids or further down the line. I think it's just
Oh, I
a
love it.
great legacy.
Well, I'm honored that you asked me, just so you know. And yeah, it was a pleasure to come on the show. And understand if you're opening a school that you got to work hard, right? It's not going to be, you will not, most likely you will not be an overnight success. You are going to have
Mm-hmm.
to put your time in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So put your time in, work hard, and enjoy what you do, right?
Yep. Yep. Well, hey, I have to give a shout out because my mom is watching. Hi, Mom. She said you were very inspiring and very enjoyable.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Love you. Thanks for watching. Well, hey,
Yeah.
Mr. Wheaton, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy Honolulu, and until we talk again or see each other, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Pick up the phone anytime there you go.
All right, sir.
And
Well,
I
that's
got to
it.
go do my 5 miles now.
There
So
you
thank
go.
you.
Go get that. Go get that 5 miles. Well, thanks
Yeah.
again, and guys, those of you watching today or watching later, just tune in every Monday at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and we have some great guests coming up. Follow me at Master Jason Flame on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and you'll see more about upcoming guests in the future. Thanks again, Master Wheaton. Appreciate you.
Yeah, and I'm on like Facebook, and you can email me. Get my email address. Ask me.
Please. Yeah, please do post that in the comments of this video, and I'll send you a link to the YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right, guys. All right, well, that's
Yeah.
it. Thank you so much. Make it a great week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.